Hello, this is Craig Mertens, Director of Product Education for Inktovo, the parent company of GraphicsFlow, InkSoft, Printavo, SignTracker, and Clarity. Welcome to the webcast today. We are going to dig into a topic that connects graphics with sales. And one of the things that I really enjoy doing in life is repurposing things that I already have for one purpose to do something totally different. And I think one of the misnomers about GraphicsFlow is that it is a tool designed for the art department, for the designers. I would argue that that's the minority use case of GraphicsFlow. The majority use case for GraphicsFlow is sales enablement, bringing business and revenue in. If you bring business and revenue into the organization, then the byproduct of that is we're going to involve the art department at some point. They have to get the files ready for production, get it off to the printers. But we can take steps in advance of that to create orders, to create sales opportunities using the GraphicsFlow platform before we even involve the art department. So we're going to get into that, and I'm going to design a framework for you guys that you can repeat back home in your own businesses that you can utilize to increase your sales, to increase your profitability, get new customers, which that's always a pretty important thing to do, and more importantly, retain your existing customers. It's very competitive in the marketplace out there, and any kind of little edge that you can develop for customer retention is huge. And you'll hear me say this many times, that the cost of acquisition for a new customer is much higher than keeping your existing ones and just selling more to them. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. There you go. And so I put together a deck, and the name of the class today is Sell More, Design Smarter, and Anyone Can Customize Art in GraphicsFlow. And, when we designed GraphicsFlow, that was the concept. We wanted to create a tool that anyone in your facility, your staff, at a football game, sitting on their cell phone, could design graphics and get ideas in front of customers. And I believe we've been very successful doing that. And so the goals and objectives of the class today are show you how to use graphics to sell smarter and design faster, position your shop as a creative partner, not a commodity seller, free up your art department to focus on the high-level work. So why does all this matter? When you're working with customers, artwork is oftentimes an obstacle to moving the order forward, right? They have to pick out the graphic. Graphic can come from something they've already developed. The graphic can come from your art department. It can come from a screen grab that they found on some designer shirt website online. But at any point as that stalls within the process, it puts the deadline of getting the order in jeopardy. The order's not secured until we get the artwork resolved. And without using visual tools to get ideas in front of customers, it can create a lag. And when that artwork stalls out, we also run the risk of losing the order. So we want a bulletproof proofing process. We want to use artwork and graphics as a sales enablement tool to get new customers, to engage them in a creative process. So that's I think one of the most overriding uses of artwork is it's not a necessary evil. It's something that's critically important to advancing your orders and getting new customers. It's not something you do after the fact. It's what you lead with, in my opinion. And so one of the things that I see in the marketplace, and when I see people engage in this logos and on stuff business, I just feel it is really a foolhardy decision, that you're so much business that's being left on the table. I know that sounds harsh, and I've said that to customers and they've kind of gotten offended by that. But I think the reason they get offended is it hits home a little bit. And what do I mean by that? If I'm at a trade show and I'm talking to, let's say, a promotional products distributor, and they come by the booth and we're chatting them up, and I ask them, what do they do for graphics? And they say something to the effect of, our customers supply the graphics. Say, I already know something about them at that point. I know they don't have in-house creative, and I also know they don't really value artwork. They're kind of positioned as logos on stuff. I'm going to take your logo and I'm going to put it on a mug, and I'm going to put it on a pen, and I'm going to put it on a polo shirt and embroidery, and I'm going to put it on a t-shirt. So what are you really adding to the equation there? You're just a conduit. You're a middleman. Where that becomes a problem is if there's buyer turnover and you get a new buyer that comes in, they have their own ideas, and all you're doing is producing that person's logo. They go into a little price shopping, or maybe they had a vendor that already been using, or their brother-in-law has a business. They're gone because you're not providing any creative value to the relationship. You've basically positioned yourself as a commodity broker. And so if your business is built around logos on stuff, then you have what's called a concentration risk. You lose a big customer, it puts your business in jeopardy. Now, if you lock down customers in terms of the creative part of your business and really establish yourself as a creative resource, it makes it a lot harder for them to go. So we don't want to be a commodity broker. We want to be a creative partner to our customers. And that's why we built GraphicsFlow. We built GraphicsFlow to change all of that. It is tools that are purpose built for this industry. It is not a general do-all graphics program like Canva. Canva is a remarkable program. It's kind of a do-all program, but it wasn't built and tooled for apparel decoration. If you were to ask the folks over at Canva what they know about production readiness for screen printing, I think you'd probably get a blank stare. It's just not something that's in their wheelhouse, so to speak. And so when we built our GraphicsFlow, we knew one of the most important things was to create artwork files in vector format that are friendly to our production processes. So if I have to cut something in vinyl, I don't have intersecting paths. If I need to screen print, I will have built-in color separations. If I need to create custom color palettes for my digital printer, so my red prints the red that I want, I have the ability to do that. So this is kind of the setup and why this concept of being able to manage your graphics and use them as a sales enablement tool is really important to your business. When I talk about GraphicsFlow being purpose-built for decorators, we're talking about the specifications of the artwork. So prior to GraphicsFlow, I owned a company called Digital Art Solutions, and we were the early pioneers of add-on software for CorelDRAW. We were the first company to introduce a virtual sampling software technology to the marketplace in 1996. I'm not aware of anybody that had a virtual sampling technology prior to that. We were also well known for production-ready clipart, design templates, and all of that. But the genesis of all that was our decorated apparel business, Desert Sportswear, because initially all the artwork that was supplied into our graphics collections came from Desert Sportswear. And there's still artwork in your GraphicsFlow program that was Desert Sportswear artwork. And so we knew how to build graphics to production specs so that if they need to be color separated, they're ready to go, that they have a set number of colors, that they're Pantones, that if we need to digitize those files into Embroidery, that they're very friendly to digitize. So when we built out that stock art customizer to help you guys localize these files, one of the big advantages of it is you're getting files that are going to be very friendly to production. And if you're not doing production in-house and you're sending those files out to, let's say, a direct-to-film transfer producer, they're going to be pretty happy with the artwork, or your contract screen printer. Also, unlike a lot of the products that are in the marketplace, the graphics actually look like they belong on a sign or a t-shirt or an award. So we designed for imprinting processes, not general graphic designs. And I think that makes a big difference in terms of aesthetically. If you look at the graphic on that slide right there, I think you could argue that's a t-shirt design. Could also be a nice little decal with a little bit of work there, and also look pretty terrific as a patch to reconfigure it a little bit, maybe shrink up the motorcycle and move that bottom line of text onto the shield, and you have a patch for a embroidery and applique. So GraphicsFlow was designed to move things faster through production and approval. And the feature set of GraphicsFlow does just that. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But let's get into, that whole concept on logos on stuff a little bit deeper. If you look at the screen over here, it's kind of small thumbnails, but these are designs that are purpose-built for this company, Stratos. They're not the same old boring, corporate logo for Stratos. Stratos has a logo. It's a fictional company that I created, but their logo is just the text, 2 lines of text down here. But look at that cool little patch, and look at that collegiate effect right here. This is not logos on stuff. This is adding creative value. And I always like to talk about the gotta have t-shirt and the wanna have t-shirt. And this applies to all wearables in our industry, but the gotta have is your uniform. Everybody's gonna have that uniform with their boring logo on it. People are gonna have promotional products with their boring logo on it. Those are just the staples of the industry. But I'm not gonna pick that out of my wardrobe to wear on the weekend. There's no chance. It's boring. It's not something I vibe with, right? But if I had a cool t-shirt like these pigment dyed comfort colors here with that kind of tone on tone look going on the blue and some nice colors like with that natural color ink with the tone on tone, I would absolutely pick that on my wardrobe. And the reason I know that is I have an InkSoft shirt with that same exact type of graphic on it with that tone on tone look and that color scheme. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to create graphics that bring more business in. We still want to get that logos on stuff business because, that's a staple, right? And you can pretty much lean into that as reorders over time. But we want to create new business that's on top of that. That's what's going to help us to grow. And in order to do that, we have to do that with graphics. And so the graphics that are on the slide here are what we call lifestyle graphics. What's a lifestyle graphic? It's what you would see when you go to the pro shop of a professional sports franchise. It's what you would see in a resort wear in a fancy hotel. It's what you would see on the sidelines of an NFL team being worn by the athletes. It's what you would see in a high-end golf course when you see like Life is Good shirts and things of that nature. So the idea here is we're trying to create graphics that are relatable to things that people are seeing out in public. And that's a huge way to kind of leverage your creativity and, for lack of a better word, get your hooks into your customers. You do it with graphics. And so what you're trying to do is distance yourself from being a commodity broker and position yourself as being a creative consultant. I'm the person you're going to come to when you need ideas. So typical scenario, customer goes to the internet, maybe they go to Custom Ink or Rush Order Tees, they go to their little designer there, they take one of those designs, they design something, they screen grab it, and they send it to you. Now, you're in the industry, so you have a critical eye. You know what a cool graphic looks like, and you know what a kind of a boring graphic looks like. So you're going to be in this position with this customer that's awkward, right? Because you could do that. You could take that screen grab that they provided you and you could pay somebody to recreate it, or if you had the skills, recreate it yourself, but you're still going to get that basic boring graphic. But what if you flip the script on them? What if you said, hey, listen, we have an art portal. We have over 10,000 designs. We have designs across every subject matter. Don't be too concerned about what the text says or the colors. Say, we can change all that for you. But I'm going to send you a link to my art portal. And why don't you pick out a couple designs that you see there? Because there's a couple benefits to that for you. Benefit number one is you get a much broader choice of artwork to choose from. But also, I can turn that much quicker, and I don't have to charge you for that. If I have to take this, screen grab that you got from Custom Ink, I have a couple concerns because I don't own the copyright to that clip art image. So I got to use a different clip art. I can't just use their clip art. But I also have to have our graphic design team rebuild that in a format that is production ready for our equipment. And there's a cost associated with that. And, typically we charge, between $25 and $50 to do a cleanup, depending on the artwork. So why don't you go to my art portal and take a look over there and see if you guys can locate something. And that's exactly what people will do. And that process of engaging them in the creative process, now they're yours because they're interacting with you. And they can be as self-service as they want to. This can all happen via email. You get to send them an email with the link. Our first step of our process is helping you pick out the graphics, go to our portal. It's a tool we designed so we can collaborate. You don't even have to have a conversation because not every person wants to talk to you, right? So you have to kind of fit your sales strategy to their consumer habits. Some people are high touch. They want to talk to you. Some people just want to go and do it themselves. And you can give them both opportunities. So one of the things I always like to point out is seasonal and like local opportunities. So if you talk about a seasonal opportunity, you can go to your corporate customers and you can do these fun little ugly Christmas sweaters with a corporate theme for them. For the company Christmas party. It doesn't have to be Santa Claus. It could be just generic holiday if you want to. But what a fun thing to do as a promotion. And if you're running online stores like InkSoft, you could pop up a little Christmas store for your customers and turn it into a fundraiser. Say, hey, listen, we'll run the store for you. Here's your cost. And then we're going to take 25% of every one of these products and we're going to donate it on your behalf to your favorite charity. What a cool way to engage your customer in a promotion. And then also, people are really fanatical about their local sports teams. So I was using the example of Kansas City because my wife's a Chiefs fan. She grew up in Kansas City. And every Friday they have this event that they do where everybody wears Chiefs colors to work. It's a big rah-rah thing. It definitely promotes enthusiasm around the company. People feel good about it. The idea of tying in the colors of the local sports franchises into a graphic concept to just generate some enthusiasm, that's plus business. That's business if you popped open a store and you promoted that you will sell on top of the uniform business you're doing for them. You just created a whole new opportunity using an e-commerce site and a fundraising angle to it. What a cool thing to do. your customers are coming back to you. These fresh ideas, they spark curiosity. What are they going to come up with next? Then you can go back to them the next year and say, hey, remember that fun design we did with the corporate colors from the Chiefs for your company, and we dropped your logo in there? Of course, we're not using the Chiefs logo in there, but we're probably going to use athletic fonts, and we're probably going to use the very specific colors for that organization. And remember when we did that for you last year? Hey, we can do it again this year. Let's just freshen up the graphic. So you keep them coming back. And then there's an opportunity for upsell, because then, maybe last year we did t-shirts, but this year we're going to do fleece, or maybe spend some embroidery or a patch into that program. That would be awesome as well. So one of the things I am going to show you guys is how you can take an InkSoft store and turn it into a virtual showroom. And when we talk about that, if you're sitting talking to somebody, and maybe it's at an athletic event, you're in the bleachers and your grandson is playing volleyball or basketball or whatever their sport is, and you're chatting with another parent, and that other parent happens to be the HR manager for local car dealership or cybersecurity company, and they ask what you do, and you say, hey, yeah, I've got a decorated apparel business. Oh, really? Like t-shirts and stuff? They said, well, it's more than that. We're full service, so we can, if you do an event, we can do your t-shirts, all your wearables, we can do your promotional products, even any kind of signage around the event, a wide variety of laser engraved gift items. So you're having this conversation with them. They don't really know what you do. They don't have any visuals to connect with that. So if you take them to an online store and that becomes your showroom, you can do that right on your phone. You could send them an email link or, a text message. I'm going to send you a link via text so you can see what we do. With GraphicsFlow, it's mobile friendly. So you can actually send them artwork from GraphicsFlow and they can actually see what they do. It's also providing an opportunity to upsell, because they're seeing this wider gamut of products within their store. And they say, hey, can I do that too? So let's take a look at a couple stores, and to kind of illustrate this point, we'll look at a corporate store, and then we'll also look at a store that's kind of built around schools and teams and such. So this is kind of our standard showroom store for InkSoft. It's got quite a bit of variety in it. You've got the InkSoft designer here, so you can name drop all these t-shirts, which is kind of fun. In this store, you have quite a bit of personalized products, like doing your name and number on the back of this t-shirt, or name dropping one of these embroidery patches right here, or name dropping a leather patch using the InkSoft designer, or name dropping a banner or a graduation sign. This is a showroom. People are seeing what you can do for their school group. And we've taken this even further, because in this store, we put together little kits and packages and laser engraved gifts. And the store even has a decal builder. So if they want to name drop decals, they can do that. So that's a good example of a store that functions almost as like your business card. You could put a link and a QR code on the back of your card or a flyer, and people could go to the store. And it doesn't even have to be a fully operational store. It could just be a showroom, just something that you built as kind of your test kitchen, so to speak. But if you take a look at kind of the other end of the spectrum here, so to speak, you talk about corporate, this is a fun little store. I built this out as just an example of what you can do with corporate lifestyle apparel, but it has the boring basic stuff in it. You got the boring basic company logo stuff here with the 50 year, but then you get all the cooler stuff in here. And so you've got things that are, boring and basic, and then you have things that are a little bit more dynamic. And being able to kind of showcase the difference between more of a custom graphic and then just doing the logos on stuff, I think is a really good way to kind of introduce the customer to this idea of lifestyle branding. That we can do things that are just cooler than your corporate logo, because they don't really know that. They don't know there's no rules here. The rule is what they give you permission to do. And obviously some companies are really strict about how their logos work, but other companies, they'll let you do whatever you want. They just want to look at something that's cool. And so you have to collaborate with the buyer around that to really do some questioning and probing to figure out what the rules are, and then build out some graphics that really are tuned to them. And that's what you're going to be able to do with your GraphicsFlow. And we're going to move on to the next slide. Empower your whole team. When we built GraphicsFlow, our idea was this: anyone within an organization should be able to edit and produce and download production ready artwork, that it doesn't have to be incumbent upon having any graphic design skills whatsoever. And there's a pro and con to that. The pro is anybody can do this because we've kept it really super simple. The con is it's not a full feature graphic software. In GraphicsFlow, if you really want to do all that tweaking and welding and trimming and adding text effects and all that really kind of sophisticated graphic design work, you can do that, but you have to download the file into Illustrator or CorelDRAW in order to do that, because we have the live templates with real live text that you can edit the text in Illustrator, you can edit the text in CorelDRAW, you can do all that. But if you just want to go in and take this design right here and name drop it a little bit, anybody on your team can do that. And that's huge, because now you don't have that bottleneck with the art department. Do you really want the art department doing all this low level work of just changing the text and colors? No, you don't want them doing that. At their pay rate, that's very expensive work. But if you're a salesperson or a front office person and you can just do it yourself and get an idea in front of a customer, that's huge. And so that's how we built GraphicsFlow. And then you've freed up your art team to do all the things that are really important for them, like doing very high-end creative work, because you have minimum order quantities or order size that justifies that custom art development, and they're skilled in order to do that. Some people outsource that piece. And then also all the nuanced production readiness stuff, all of the pre-production, doing the color separation, setting up the files for output, color correction. Those are all the things that the art department's going to do once you hand off the vector art to them. And that's what they're trained to do. But to have them doing all this kind of low-level work of name dropping, that's silly. So let's take this design and let's kind of tweak it out a little bit. This is from the newest design drop. So we do the new design drops every single month. And I just thought this is a pretty cool little layout with the crest in there. And we can take this and make it something completely independent of this motors right here. So I'm just going to go into the customizer, just log into my GraphicsFlow, select that template. And the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn off the weathered effect. We'll change this into school design. We'll just say East, hit enter, and then we'll just say established 1966, hit enter. And then where it says motors, I'm going to say Eagles, and that's a layered text effect. So I need to repeat that twice. Eagles here, Eagles right here. Spirit of the road, we don't even need that. We'll just turn that off. And then we just need to get rid of the motorcycle. So what I'm going to do is just going to hit the little button right here, and I'm going to replace it, and I'm just going to type in Eagle, and I'm going to find an eagle that I'm vibing with. So I'm just going to do this kind of basic one. So once we get it set up, what I want to do is change the colors. The smart thing to do here is to match the color of the eagle with the colors that are already in the design. I'll show you why that's important. If I go over here and we utilize this color right here, because it's a good contrasting color, right? And we apply it. And then I take this blue and I make that white. Then it's going to make it really super easy for me to do a global color swap. And let's do that real quick. So I'm going to go over here and we've got the design all set up. And we're just going to do a global color swap. So I think I want to take the dark color here and I'm going to make that a navy blue. There we go. And then I'm going to take the other color right here and I'm going to make that a gray. So we'll do kind of a medium gray right here. And the eagles, I'm going to make a little tweak in the word eagles over here. And I think I'm going to go with gold in the center. And we're going to go with that same gold that's already in it. It's probably going to pop pretty good. Yeah, it pops great. And then the outline of that, I think we're going to make that gray. So we're going to go to the other layer here. And we're going to take this color and make it the same color gray. And I think we're going to look pretty awesome here. Yeah, I'm loving it. So I'm just going to hit save. East Eagle Shield 01. We're going to save it in the store files for that store. And then from here, if I wanted to, I can download a CDR file, bring it into Corel. I can download a PDF file, fully editable vector file, bring it into Illustrator. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to download two files. I'm going to download a PDF, and I'm just going to put it in my downloads folder right here. And I'm also going to download a PNG right here. And we're going to put that in the downloads folder too. So why am I doing that? Couple things. Number one, I can load this into an InkSoft store super quick, but I want to create a virtual sample because I'm going to use this to create a proposal to send over to the customer. And so I'm going to add this over here, create new proposal, and we're going to say East Eagles Fall Shield Concept. Why not? So we're going to go over here and add that. So there's my art approval. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my main InkSoft store, and this is like my main shop store right here, Blue Shirt Printing. And in Blue Shirt Printing, I have the designer. So I'm just going to hit Start Design, and we're going to find a shirt we're going to want to put that on. So let's put it on that long sleeve tee right there. Hit Design Now, and I'm going to hit Upload Image, and I'm actually going to upload the PDF version of that file, because the PDF version is going to come up as an actual vector file. So there's that. And when you do these crest files, they got to be a little bit smaller. So they're about like that. So crest file isn't like giant full front. It's meant to look more like a patch. So that looks pretty good. And I'm going to save this. And we're going to call this East Eagles Shield 01, right? To correspond with the actual name of the graphic, right? And then I'm just going to go over here to next step, and I'm just going to click on that, and I'm going to grab my screen capture utility right here, which is just Mac has the same thing. Windows, it's called snipping tool. So I grab that snipping tool, and I'm just going to save it. So I'm just going to go down here, and I'm going to save that as a PNG file. So we're going to save that, and then back to GraphicsFlow, and we can just add it to this art approval. So I could just direct add it if I want. Just upload it right directly from that file folder. So I'm just going to go to upload, and here it is. And guess what I have now? I have the virtual sample, and I have the graphic. And so this, to me, this is really important. And I'm going to move that up so they see the graphic first. Having the graphic full screen, you can really see what's going on. If the only thing you provide is the virtual sample, you can't really see the detail of the graphic. Now, this, because we're going to put it on a gray shirt, I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to use a little background color function to kind of match up the gray here. So let's match that up with the shirt color. That looks pretty good. And I can put any notes in here, and I can put in any kind of description. If I want to put pricing in there, I suppose I could put pricing in here. But now you have the mock-up and the shield design right there. That's all you have. And this is what you're going to send to the customer, because you can send them this link now, because you can go over here and say, grab their email, pick a permission. Maybe you want them to just view, like it's the students, or maybe you want them to comment because it's the parents, and maybe you want them to comment and approve because it's the booster parent or the coach. So you can determine by grabbing these links which level of interactivity they have with this web page. Or you can just fire it off through our email system by putting their email out and picking an approval. So if I grab a link, that's going in my own email. If I put the email up in here, it's going through our system. And there you go. So this is just a custom web page. And their version of the web page that they're going to see will be a little bit different than yours, because they're going to be looking at a different resolution. So the public facing part of these, the resolution is lower. And the reason we do that is so they can't get a production ready file, and they can't steal your art and print it. It still looks good. So they still look great, but they're not going to be at the same resolution that the production file's at. So you're sending us over to the customer. They fall in love with it. They say, yep, love it. Or they, hit reject, and then you have to send another version, because we have version control now. So you can attach another version, and they can compare the two. So this is a very typical way of getting an idea in front of a customer. And the cool part about this is you can just send this out anytime you want. You don't have to send it right now. You can just stack a whole bunch of these up and then do a sales prospecting campaign where you just start firing these links out. What you're doing is you're planting some seeds with your customers that you're creative, that you can do all this, creative art for them, and you're using it to separate yourself from the competition, because you're not doing the same thing that everybody else is doing. And so this is a pretty classic example of how you'd use GraphicsFlow to get ideas in front of a customer. And I'm just going to go in here and just pull up, I did the Scottsdale schools one, where I just did a bunch of fun graphics from the different schools within my area. And so I can get these in front of customers. It's a tool that you're going to use to deploy artwork so you can get ideas in front of your customers. If you make it real and you put it on a product, they can picture it. They can kind of connect the dots, right? But there's a risk to that, because if you do mock it up, then the natural question that the customer is going to ask is, well, how much is it, right? If you get them to fall in love with the artwork first, and then you have the conversation about what you're going to put it on, then you've kind of disarmed them a little bit from a position of strength. You're saying, hey, you can only get this artwork through us. So when they start talking about price and, I can get this cheap, well, you're not getting that art from somebody else because that's an art, we own that art. So if you like what you see, you have to buy it from me. You can't take that to somebody else, right? So by leading with artwork, it gives you a lot more control over the situation because they know they can only get that graphic through you. And that's a huge differentiation point. I see this all the time when I talk to customers. They're complaining about these big national companies that come in and they quote buy the business, especially around spiritware. And I'm familiar with those big national companies too, and I've seen their art. I'm not impressed. It's nowhere near at the level of what you guys have with your GraphicsFlow account. Artwork in GraphicsFlow is built by very professional graphic designers that are trained to do t-shirt work, to do decorated apparel. So when you're getting graphics in your GraphicsFlow, they're not just general graphic design people, they're actually t-shirt designers that do work for people like Nordstrom or Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or the Graceland gift shop in Memphis. So these are real customers that our graphic designers do work for. And so the idea here is you're getting artwork that's tuned into what's happening in the marketplace. It looks cool on a t-shirt and it really makes you guys stand out. When you're doing the virtual sample, to me, that's like a secondary thing. I would probably put that in when it's the actual approval where I need them to sign off on placement and what it needs to look like. I wouldn't necessarily put that in just to get ideas in front of the customer. It's kind of up to me how I do that, but every situation is a little different. And you always want to invite feedback. You don't want to send it out and say, oh, I hope they don't comment on it. I hope they just accept it as is. I don't want that to happen. I want them to say, can you change this? Can you change this color? Because once they start collaborating with you, they're yours. They're not going anywhere else because they're part of this creative process now. Some people really feel empowered by that and they want to contribute. That's why folks go to these online websites or use the InkSoft designer to design their own. They just have this creative outlet. The problem you run into, a lot of times the work that they design in their own doesn't always look great. And it's not always going to be to your advantage in terms of, production readiness, extra work that you're going to have to do. So, I think leading with your art portal, trying to get them engaged with your art portal, presenting ideas to your customers, I think is generally a really good idea. And I think mixing your standalone artwork with the product visuals in the context of a mockup is a great way to go. They get to see a bigger image of the graphic, and then they get to see it placed on a product. And that's kind of the perfect way to do it. It's just a matter of timing and how you want to approach it. A GraphicsFlow campaign, what I would always suggest is create a small list, 10 customers in your area. They could be people you're already doing business with or people that you'd like to do business with. Think big. There's going to be a trial and error process, nothing ventured, nothing gained. But maybe start out with your local high schools within a 30, 40-mile radius. Identify some small businesses within your community, the neighborhood coffee shops or brew pubs or restaurants or even, in the hospitality world, and start putting some graphics around that. And here's the thing, even if those don't sell or it doesn't go anywhere, that's your showroom now. You still have that graphic. People don't know you're not doing business with those folks. So if you show a school A work that you did for company B, but you didn't really do that work for company B or school B, they don't know that. They just think you're already doing business with school B. And school B might be the big deal, the state champion. So it's allowing you to project yourself as a bigger deal than maybe you are. Although you are a pretty big deal, because frankly, you have the same graphical tools and in some cases better graphical tools than some of these big national companies. And I would argue that in terms of the quality of graphics, you have better quality of graphics than many of these big national companies. You can also create little personalized portals. I'll show you how that works when I'll dig into an art portal here. And then, you can use these campaigns to start conversation. You can send out a bulk email. So, hey, create a couple designs for your school. This is kind of the work we do. Here's a little store I created for you. So it's not active, it's not live, but I just wanted you to see what our capabilities are. Remind them you're a local business. I think a lot of times people prefer to work local, especially when you're competing against some of the big national companies, and use it as a pretext to get a meeting with them, whether it's a Zoom meeting or in-person meeting. That's how you start these conversations. And the cool part is especially when you're talking about schools, if you can get plugged in when they're at little league level and stay connected to them all the way up, as they go into middle school and high school, don't always focus on the big high profile business opportunities. Sometimes just getting in with the local little league or pee wee football is a great place to start, or tap into a couple small local businesses that don't really think in terms of I can have really cool swag. They just think in terms of we're going to put our logos on things because that's what we've always done. And then you can present some ideas to them and say, hey, you can do that, but let me show you all the cool stuff that we can do for you. So that's where you start using your art portal. And I'm going to show you kind of two flavors of the art portal. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. This is a generic art portal. And how did this get created? Let's go back to GraphicsFlow and let's go over here to manage settings. And the way that got created is I went in and this is the link. So I redirected this link through my GoDaddy account to have my homepage, craigmertens.com, link to this link. So it's going to display craigmertens.com, but it's where it's really pulling that link from is right here. So I'm going to decide what design ideas I want to have displayed in here. So I've had pretty much everything in here that's available in there, but I decided to make my default category sports. And I did the same thing with clip art, except I just leave all the clip art there and I'm not sorting it by sports. But if I wanted the sports clip art to show up first, if I wanted to exclude something, let's say I just don't like pickleball and I just want to put the word pickle in here. And so it'll exclude all the pickleball graphics. I can do that too. And then I am going to display the fonts because I want them to look at the fonts. If they have a favorite font and they go to the internet and they find this favorite font, I have to pay for that font if I don't own it. But if I let them go to my portal and they can find something close, then I have to pay for it because I already have it because it's part of my graphics flow. Also, I have a featured design section enabled, which means I can upload artwork to Graphics Flow or take artwork I've customized in the stock art customizer and load that into my art portal. As far as navigation, I've added additional sub showcases in the form of art approval links. So I'm have all these view only links for these various art approvals that are being used to showcase very specific type of art. I've customized my form fill on the art portal. So I've added a tell us about your project. I added a date picker so they could pick out a date. I added a drop down for different sales reps so they knew who their sales rep was. And then I enabled the ability to upload art. So if they want to upload source artwork, that their mascot or some ideas they found and put notes in about that, they can do that. And then I've got all my notification settings. So it's coming to me on the design request. And then the contact form is coming to me. And then this is how I set the colors for my page right there. That's how I did it. And then this is the embed code. And I'll just copy that and I'll show you why that's important. Because that embed code allows me to go to InkSoft and we'll go over to the store and I'll go over to the style editor. And I added a navigation for view designs over here. So that's just a navigation that I added. And I created a page and then I just used that embed code and pasted it into a content block. So I just created a content block, pasted that code in, and voila, I've got the art portal embedded right into my InkSoft store. I mean, that is just a very professional way to manage that. Now, I'm not going to say I haven't published that because I already have that in the store, but it's that easy from the embed code. And then you just have to decide like where you want it on the page or if you want to have a dedicated page. Because in here, I've actually got a dedicated page here. When they go over here to view designs, it's just nothing but the art portal. But the alternative is over here, which is the standalone one. And I have mine landing on my featured designs. So if they want to see everything, they could just go to design ideas. But on my portal, I have it landing on my featured designs. Why did I do that? Because if they click one of these and submit it, this is from the stock art customizer. This is all live. So I can go and change this to We Are Cougars, West High or Central High, change it to red and navy. I have the ability to do that because I loaded actually editable designs that I customized with the stock art customizer into my portal. And it's super easy. And these are cool. I mean, that's a really cool basic collegiate graphic. It's all the kind of the basic staples, because less is more when it comes to sports graphics. Those really clean looks are oftentimes what's really popular. But if they want to go in and get the whole big picture and maybe they're, really into the outdoors, they can do that too. And again, I could put a mascot in there, put the eagle in there, change the colors. But when they want to submit these, all I have to do is hit add item. and hit submit, and we'll get rid of that one. And they just fill out their form, and if they have source artwork they want to upload, they just upload it, and they're done. That's it. We just made it super easy for them, because not everybody wants to do that design a shirt thing themselves. In fact, most people don't. They would just rather pick something out and have you do the work. You want to be the one doing the work, because then they have to rely on you, right? And then we have them tied into a creative process. That art portal prospecting using artwork, especially with GraphicsFlow, is an integral part of that. Whether you're doing a standalone website, and where I just am linking this to my domain, if I don't do that, I can still do my art portal, because I can just grab the link here, but it's not going to be as cool, So this is just the general link right here. If you don't own a domain, now if you redirect it to a page on your own website or whatever, then it's going to show up like gregmertens.com, like I'm doing over here. So it's just a different way to approach it. So key takeaways. So things I want to kind of reiterate here. Lifestyle graphics, it's so easy to do that in GraphicsFlow, because you just have thousands of designs to choose from. It's just a placeholder. It has text and colors and fonts. It's just a placeholder waiting for a fresh idea. Separate yourself from the competition. Establish yourself as a creative resource to your customer, because then they'll keep coming back. Seasonal and trend-driven designs drive excitement. I think that's one of the coolest things that you can do, is just create a theme around a holiday or a sports look. Virtual showrooms showcase creativity. Whether you're using InkSoft as your store platform or another platform, these don't have to be live stores. They're just a showroom to showcase what you can do. Empower your team. Encourage your front office staff, or maybe it's just you or your sales team, to get involved in utilizing the stock art customizer in GraphicsFlow. Will your art department push back on that? Potentially. This is for the good of the company, right? And if the artists are all sensitive about that, I get it, I understand it, but we're just trying to bring new business in. And this is just one more tool, that they use. They have a CRM, they have an email client that they're using, and now they have a graphics client that they're using. It's called GraphicsFlow. Bring mockups to life, whether you're doing your mockups in maybe CorelDRAW using your Smart Designer software, or you're using them another online tool. Maybe you're doing them in Canva, or maybe you're using ChatGPT to do it. Mockups bring ideas to life. And if you have an InkSoft store, just using your designer to do a mockup, it's pretty slick, because we've got that product catalog in there that's got tens of thousands of products. So you're able to tap into the photos from all these vendors just by doing a search and utilizing the product feed in InkSoft, which is awesome. And by the way, Printavo has a mockup feature too. You can do the same thing in there. Personalized outreach, creating these little custom portals in the art portal, I think is a really cool thing to do, because I went in here and we talked about pickleball. I did a pickleball showcase in here with just pickleball designs. So here's just a showcase of pickleball designs, which is, last time I checked, was pretty popular. So next, customer success in action. Challenge. Don't just do logos and stuff. Be a creative consultant. Have this challenge of logo-only product. How do you solve it? You solve it with GraphicsFlow, doing those lifestyle graphics, doing the showcases in your InkSoft stores, using mockups, and you're going to get faster approvals. You're going to build better relationships. And then most importantly, you shift away from being that commodity seller. You become that creative consultant that customers lean on. And we have very successful customers that have used this concept to be the dominant player within their area. And some of these folks are one-person operations, but they're just so creative, and their customers just have become dependent on them for their ideas. They couldn't even imagine going anywhere else. And what's fantastic about that is then you don't get lined up on price. Pick your favorite two: quality, price, and service, right? Well, where does artwork fall into that? Well, I would say it falls into all three. It falls into price because better artwork demands a better price. It certainly falls into quality because the quality of the graphic increases the quality of the overall product. And service, the service part is you being that creative consultant and helping the customer develop. And so, wow, you can check all three of those boxes utilizing your GraphicsFlow subscription. Use your GraphicsFlow to sell smarter, close faster, win repeat business. As somebody that's engaged in the decorated apparel industry, and so I've been involved in it, for over 40 years, I love getting reorders. That's my favorite thing in the world. And if I do it right, and if I get the artwork right and the product mix right and the pricing right, and I have a cool website, and I really work with that customer to drive them to that website so their people can buy on their phone, then that's just a constant source of revenue. So let's do this. I want to wrap up with one little project because we talked about the corporate lifestyle apparel, and I want to build out a graphic using that concept of the corporate graphic that's built around sports colors. What we're going to do here is I'm actually going to start off with the football. And so I'm going to go in here and I'm going to type in football. I'm going to go down here and find a graphic that I vibe with. I'm going to go right here. So we're going to pick this design right here. And I'm going to click on customize. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to turn off the weathered effect. And I'm going to leave the helmet in there because I think the helmet, that old school leather helmet, is kind of fun. And so right over here where it says 2019, and that's a 2-layer text effect, I'm just going to say EST. And we're going to change that to EST as well. And then what we're going to do over here where it says 2020, I'm going to put 2006. And then it says Millhouse. It's a multi-layer text effect. And I'm going to say Inktavo. And I'm just copying that effect in there. Work smarter. Now, right now, the default colors are terrific because they're my Green Bay Packers colors. So we got our little design right here. But let's just look. This is going to look totally different once we go and start switching these colors out. So my coworker is a huge Seattle Seahawks fan. So let's go and localize this for Seahawks. So we got all the colors down here. So we're going to make this the navy. So we're going to do that navy right there. And then we're going to do the rave green where the gold is. Let's try lighter green. That helmet part, this I'm going to make the rave green too. So we're going to make that the rave green. And then the helmet, I'm actually going to go gray. And I'm going to go with a little bit darker gray. There you go. That's how you do a corporate lifestyle apparel graphic, utilizing colors from a professional sports team around corporate. You can go in, get unlimited creativity, just take a basic athletic design, athletic font, school colors, pro sport team colors, maybe an element of design from within their graphic and incorporate it in, and you have a great little promotion to take to your customers and get ideas in front of them. So thank you again for joining me on GraphicsFlow Academy, and we will see you on the next one. Take care.